Zack Ryder and Ryback, two names that come out against WWE. Ryback says that Vince McMahon is being pulled from so many directions. He has no control over the product anymore. We all know this because we watch the product. Zack Ryder says he hated how Vince McMahon always handed him scripts and never, ever gave him the freedom to be himself. Following one or two WWE workers being tested positive for the coronavirus, we are being told that the tapings now are a complete cluster show and there's no type of direction or anything. We're going to go over all three of these topics. Happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. We appreciate everything that you do. Hit the like button, subscribe, go nowhere else. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, welcome back to the YouTube channel. Happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. We got three stories today about WWE. We have the first story. Well, I don't know if it's going to be in this order, but we have the first story talking about how recent TV tapings in WWE has been a complete clown show following the positive test of what is believed to be a female superstar of the coronavirus. We also have Zack Ryder coming out saying that he did whatever he could and revealed how the WWE locker room also made fun of him and how he was trying to be creative. And Ryback, and listen, I'll be the first one to say never in my life have I ever loved Ryback, but I will tell you this, he is absolutely right with what he says about Vince McMahon, about him needing to step down. But we all know, never in a million years would I ever wish death on a single man. But I can tell you this right now, and I hate to say it, when Vince McMahon steps down or unfortunately tragically passes away, Triple H taking over, whoever, WWE will be in a much better place. The future is bright. But I say that very, very loosely. I owe Vince McMahon my life. I owe him my childhood. I would never in a million years wish harm upon the man whatsoever. But we're going to talk about these three right here, and I'm going to try to fix this camera, which does not want to cooperate too much today. The first topic we're going to talk about is the recent TV tapings. Now, obviously, with WWE going on from the coronavirus, obviously they've had to have crowdless shows, and you can say what you want about any type of sport. Professional wrestling is absolutely nothing without a crowd. The wrestlers feed off of the crowd. It is just so crucial to it, and it is shown severely. Now, recently, WWE, or in the last couple weeks, or about to say month, they have imported crowd. Imported some of the NXT wrestlers and fans as well, with plexiglass and so on. Now, we're being told, to my knowledge, that some of these wrestlers or some of these fans had 8-hour days. Now, 8-hour days doesn't sound too terrible, but when you think about it from the standpoint of 8-hour days cheering for a wrestling show, could you imagine sitting through Raw, then sitting through SmackDown, then sitting through NXT, and having to cheer for those 8 hours? That is very, very excruciating, and I can tell you that right now, it's hard to watch one episode of Raw nowadays. Now I have to sit here and sit through all of them. It is definitely not an easy thing to do. I'm trying to fix this camera here. It does not want to cooperate today. There we go. We're going to talk about this first. So it says here, WWE News, this is from GiveMeSport.com. Recent TV tapings described as total clown show and full-blown clusterfuck. I am so sorry for my language. It's been a rocky week in WWE. On Tuesday, a member of the roster who had previously performed at TV tapings this month tested positive for the virus. WWE quickly moved to test all employees who have been on site for recent tapings at the Performance Center to ensure the health and safety of the company's performers and staff. The hope would have been to continue taping shows on Wednesday, but that did not happen. SmackDown's pre-recorded was canceled, and according to PW Insider, tensions were running high as performers were left waiting for test results outside of the building. It is now believed next Friday's episode will be taped just hours before SmackDown, and at this pace, we are at a point now where you can say what you want about WWE, their show should be live. Now, I understand why they had Randy Orton and Edge being pre-taped on Backlash, but their shows in general should be live. WWE should have live television at this point, especially with this coming Friday SmackDown being taped just hours before the show. It's unlikely WWE will be forced to actually cancel any shows. The latest virus ordeal has really affected the mood backstage. WrestleVotes posted a short conversation with a source from the company on Twitter who described the current climate as a full-blown cluster. How can I put this nicely? A complete, unbelievable lack of leadership, full-blown cluster. They should be embarrassed. Total clown show. This certainly won't fill fans with any confidence, but just imagine what it's like to be a member of the roster right now. Already we've seen a number of stars refuse to work amid the pandemic, and this week another one pulled out. Per Fightful, Kevin Owens respectfully informed WWE that he was not going to work Wednesday's taping of Raw following the positive COVID-19 test. Kevin Owens straight to the exit, and WWE loses another star who has actually been involved in a little bit of meaningful television of late. He joined Roman Reigns, Sami Zayn, two other top superstars who have refused to work in recent months, and now it's unclear when KO will return. But given the atmosphere is being described as it is, and a clown show, it's hardly surprising that Owens has stepped back during the pandemic and probably won't be the last to do so. Now, the pandemic itself, for the most part, is having a positive trend towards a way back of regular life. But you can see here that Kevin Owens has now joined. The second he found out somebody that he potentially had worked with tested positive, straight to the exit sign. And I can't blame him. I can't blame him. Roman Reigns has been out since weeks before WrestleMania. Sami Zayn was out. I think his last appearance was at WrestleMania. You can't really blame them. Again, but then we hear all of these stories. I would not want to be working for WWE right now. I think that it is not fun. There's no fans. I think they're just being worked constantly. A lot of WWE's missing their roster. Now, that doesn't mean, the show's not good to begin with, for the most part. Prior to Paul Heyman being fired, there were some bright spots on Monday Night Raw. I will be honest with you, SmackDown's been almost unbearable. Kevin Owens, again, tells WWE he's out. Kevin Owens was getting involved in the U.S. title mixture with Apollo Crews, which I would assume was going to result in probably Kevin Owens winning the U.S. title from Apollo Crews at some point this summer. The virus has hit WWE, in my honest opinion, harder than almost any other sport. And I just can't really imagine what the WWE aroma and life is like backstage. We're being told Vince McMahon is probably highly frustrated. He has no idea what's going on. Stories aren't making sense. Wrestlers are pulling out. He's taping shows. Shows got to be retaped. It's not the way he wants it. It is... Taped WWE is always going to be not good. I never thought that taped wrestling was ever that good. I will say this. Hopefully this gets better soon. We don't know who's next. The name of the performer did not come out. Obviously, everyone has to be tested. Once one person, especially in a wrestling locker room, has to be tested. WWE's going through it right now. But again, I don't have sympathy for their product because their product has been not good long before this pandemic hit. Some things have shown some promise. There's been quite a few promos that have been pretty memorable since the pandemic. The John Cena Bray Wyatt on the go home to WrestleMania was a good one. Seth Rollins promos with Drew McIntyre have been good. Undertaker's promo on AJ Styles. I think sometimes not having the crowd there, the dead silence kind of just adds to the promo, and some of the performers just perform better that way. But if there's anybody that misses their crowd, it's WWE, and that was the first topic to talk about. I can only imagine what it's like. I would just sense high levels of frustration, and we don't know when this is going to end. We'll talk about a man that really hit it on the head. Now, I was never a fan of Ryback, ever really. I thought that he was size. I thought that he was a bit of a jerk. And I thought that, honestly, I don't like to call people out, but I think that he kind of did steroids. Some people will say he's not. He says he's not hungry anymore. Quote from former WWE champion Ryback blasting Vince McMahon. You can say what you want about Ryback. He's voiced his frustration with WWE ever since leaving. He's one of the people like CM Punk. He also called CM Punk a Karen, which, in reference for you that don't know, it is probably a reference to a 90-year-old white woman. I just think Ryback, his way that he belonged in the UFC, not the WWE. Vince McMahon has been keeping WWE running at the top for a long time. He has seen some of the greatest wrestlers come and go and made prospects into legends. Nowadays, however, the storylines of WWE have decreased in quality, and fans have started to realize this. Yes, we have. Former star Ryback provided an insight into why this may be happening. He's tapped out, he's not hungry anymore, claims Ryback. From the level of a creative aspect of things, he hasn't been, because he's got too much money, it's WWE too big for his own good. He further added that McMahon was lost his creativity because of how big WWE has become. Having achieved it all, Vince McMahon doesn't feel the need to be creative anymore. That is correct. He's being pulled in too many different directions. He has too many people working for him, says Ryback. The business is not, he's not doing much wrong from a financial standpoint of creating revenue. Ryback feels that Vince has so many issues to cater to that he's forgotten about the entire wrestling scene. Ryback claims that he is more inclined now to the financial aspect of the business. This is what he cares about. That's all he is. He goes, Ryan, I am a businessman. That's all he's looking at is numbers. McMahon is no longer interested in the details of creating compelling long-term storylines and megastars, complains Ryback. Ryback feels Vince McMahon is no longer crucial for WWE. I've been saying that. Ryback explains how McMahon is not only in it for the numbers, he has no drive to create new superstars into legend or foster a great storyline. He doesn't want to pitch into that side of the business anymore. Ryback turned his head to Paul Heyman. In his case, we'll see it with the writers like the Paul Heyman stuff, and they are crucial. He, McMahon, he doesn't want to relinquish any control. Power hungry. Paul Heyman was removed from his position last week. Vince voiced his frustration with Raw and its running. Vince McMahon, you can put anybody that you like in the position of Paul Heyman. If they are not a carbon copy of what you perceive to be successful, you are going to fire them. You can fire all the people you want. Until you let these people have control that know what they're doing, your product is going to continue to suffer. That is from me. Raw has seen a drastic drop in ratings. The show's not good. McMahon wanted to make a big change to revise those numbers. Ryback explains how Paul Heyman was an essential presence backstage and he was the rock of the storylines. However, McMahon is no longer relevant to any of the creative decisions. He needs to sell the company, and they need to get people that are hungry in these positions, and the product, they have the stars there. They just need to get the right people that have the vision they want to prove themselves. Never in my life have I heard something that has been more truthful from somebody I really don't care for. He needs to sell the company, which will never happen. Vince McMahon will take WWE to the grave. And get people that are hungry. Now, I don't know about that because we're being told that the creative writers are passionate about what they do, but a lot of them get their ideas shot down. But even if not, his lack of drive, like I said, Vince McMahon, the empire is so big, WWE can't be touched. He's at a point now where he's just going to keep making money, and he just doesn't have the drive. When you looked at the Attitude Era, when there was legitimate competition for WWF, Vince McMahon was one of the best characters in television history at that time period. He was all these creative storylines. Now, you could say what you want about the wrestling. The wrestling wasn't always there. But all of these creative storylines, he was doing what he could. AEW has rubbed off on them a little bit. That is one of the reasons. First off, AEW rubbed off on them from the standpoint of they put NXT on television, which was not a good idea. They took it out of Full Sail, which was not a good idea. And now, Vince McMahon is reportedly, I still gotta watch NXT, gonna have some control on NXT, so everything you love about NXT, you can kiss that goodbye. His lack of drive will make the entire business stagnant. Ryback explains how WWE has a lot of potential to tap into, but he needs people that are the right people behind the scenes. Absolutely. We need people behind the scenes that are going to be right. We need people that are going to stick it to Vince McMahon. Again, you don't want to call the guy a jerk. That's how you lose your job. Kevin Dunn, Bruce Pritchard are going to tell Vince McMahon what they want to hear, or tell Vince McMahon what he wants to hear, and that's going to result in what we have. Do you think Ryback has a point? Yes, he does. Yes, he does. He is 100% right. It's not as easy as it sounds. On the other hand, we do need those Attitude Era kind of storylines again now more than ever. We can't have the Attitude Era because everybody on Twitter is a 5-year-old girl. Not everybody. A lot of people on Twitter are very sensitive. They're very sensitive. They cry and complain about everything. God forbid we had an Attitude Era storyline. We will have a bunch of Karens complaining to WWE headquarters. That is that. Ryback is 100% right. I now like him on a scale of 1 to 10. I liked him at maybe a 3. Now he's like at a 6. Last but not least, a guy who had a potential, stuck with the company, did everything he could, and at the end of the day, he got released. I was doing whatever I could. Zack Ryder reveals how WWE locker room made fun of him. WWE self-proclaimed internet champion Zack Ryder revealed a downcast anecdote about his stint in WWE. He says he started his career in 2005 by appearing on SmackDown. In his Talk is Jericho podcast, he revealed that everyone in WWE made fun of him at once. The incident was during the time when Ryder and Hawkins were placed as a tag team. Even though they were a tag team seldom did, they appeared on TV as one. Hawkins got famous for his losing streak. Imagine being famous for that. The gimmick made it worse for Zack, whose only way to have TV time was to be with Hawkins, who was now the talking point. Looking back, he said during that time, Hawkins you think is bad, losing every match. I didn't have a match on Raw in a year. He then added, I dress up in my suit and try to talk to Vince. One day, here's a funny story. I went to him for 1 week, and he's like, great ideas. Next week, bring it to me in writing. So the next week, I typed it up like it was a school project. I had the cover sheet and everything. I'm walking around the locker room, and people are making fun of me, taking a picture of Zack Ryder pitches. But at this point, I was doing whatever I could. By sharing his story, Zack brings out the real struggle for a WWE superstar to even get a short period in the mainstream. It also shows how much effort he put himself into making his gimmick better. Vince perhaps could have had more trust in the superstar, but he chose the opposite route. Zack Ryder in his spell with WWE has had more low points than peak points. He didn't get enough chances to show his talent. Ryder has had a great year in 2011, which was famously known as the Ryder Revolution. The stretch was mainly due to his social media fame. The next year turned out to be a nightmare. There was a downfall for him in his WWE career. WWE recently released Zack Ryder, part of the budget cuts from the pandemic, ending his long fit and misfit career of 15 years tenure with the company. The top point in WWE for me, for Zack Ryder, was probably his Intercontinental Championship win at WrestleMania 32. That was kind of his respect point. Zack Ryder is very good. He's popular. The people like him. His woo gimmick was big. His social media fame is what really kind of made Zack Ryder have his name. I like Zack Ryder. Zack Ryder was good and he was fun to watch. Was he a megastar? No. But Zack Ryder could have had a lot more success in WWE. It could have been a strong US champion or Intercontinental champion. He could have had so much better. Kurt Hawkins, to me, I never really cared for Kurt Hawkins. That him and Zack Ryder being the edgeheads, Kurt Hawkins rallying on a losing streak because you all love somebody who lost 165 matches in a row. That's great, isn't it? Zack Ryder was done dirty by WWE. He stayed loyal, thick and thin to this company for 15 years. And he got released just like that because of a pandemic. I understand it's a business, but there are so many other guys on that roster. So much money you could have saved. How much money did you spend on Goldberg to come back, have atrocious matches, cut promos that nobody cared about, win a championship that was not relevant in 4 years, and now you cut Zack Ryder, who's seasoned within the company, probably worked all of your live events, played as a jobber, ate all of the pinfalls to all of these guys that you wanted to build, and pandemic, pew, exit sign, have a good one. Will Zack Ryder be in AEW? I sure hope so. EC3, another guy. AEW, please. The only problem is that WWE's tag team division is non-existent anyway. There's literally 2 tag teams on Monday Night Raw. The Street Profits, which are great, by the way, and the Viking Raiders, which are good too, but, you know, they don't wrestle. They just have backstage segments. SmackDown tag teams division's a little bit better. Tag team wrestling in WWE hasn't mattered. It blows my mind how you can sit here and watch something like American Alpha versus the Revival on NXT TakeOver, and then realize that it's the same company that's having the Street Profits and Viking Raiders in a ninja storyline that makes 0 sense. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you have a happy Father's Day. Hope everyone's doing okay. I appreciate everybody watching as always. Hit the like button, subscribe, do everything you can to push it out there. Have a great day.